We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. My name is Michael Evans, and you're listening to America's Voice Now. I'll be your host this hour. I'm going to tap into a story in reference to the Federal Reserve and the corruption that is inherent in the World Bank and the Federal Reserve and the global banking world. There's a new article with a whistleblower specifically addressed at the New American. And I've posted a link to it on our Facebook page, and I've also posted a link to it on our website. You can find the website at americasvoicenow.org, and you can find the Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. If there's only one thing that you read today, if there is only one thing that you spend a few minutes doing that is outside of your normal routine, it should be this. The title of the article is World Bank Insider Blows the Whistle on Corruption and the Federal Reserve. Now, this is a former insider at the World Bank. She's the ex-senior counsel. Her name is Karen Hoods or Hoodes. I'm not sure. Hudes. I have to tell you, this is not some low-level clerk. I mean, ex-senior counsel means that she is on the inside of some of the most important decisions that are made in a corporation or in a business or in an industry. Senior counsel is the legal entity that provides the legal cover and make sure that everything that a corporation or an entity does is within the boundaries of the law. And in the case of the Federal Reserve and World Bank, this would be not only domestic law, in the United States alone for the Federal Reserve, but also international law. This is a woman who is well versed and thoroughly steeped in the system of how money moves, what it is, how governments use it, how corporations use it, how banks manipulate it. I mean, we're talking about someone here this isn't someone in the mailroom. This isn't someone who's a mid-level manager. For you to become senior counsel, you've spent the vast majority of your professional business life working on the inside, at the highest levels of power. She says the global financial system is dominated by a small group of corrupt, power-hungry figures centered around the privately owned U.S. Federal Reserve. That the network has seized control of the media to cover up its crimes. I mean, here you're talking about mind-blowing whistleblowers. These are people who have the deepest knowledge of what happened on the inside. She says that when she tried to blow the whistle on multiple problems, the World Bank fired her, and now along with another network of fellow whistleblowers, she's determined to expose and end the corruption. I'm going to tell you something, folks. Our duty is to be knowledgeable about what's happening around us so that we can act as ministers, shepherds, proselytizers, disciples to share the word with others around us who are completely ignorant. I mean, 80% of America does not know that the Federal Reserve is not a federal agency. 80%. So imagine their surprise when they find out that not only is it not a federal agency, but that it owns the media or has absolute dictatorial control over what the media says. You want proof? Have you ever heard anyone in the media talk about the Federal Reserve in anything other than glowing terms? Have you ever heard anyone mention Ben Bernanke in anything other than jaw-dropping, awestruck reverence? Ever? Have you ever heard anyone in the media speak about the Federal Reserve and explain who its real owner of cartel private banks is? Because it is owned by a cartel of private banks. Have you ever heard that? No, you haven't. I know you haven't, because I scan the media every single day. I watch all kinds of programs to verify and see what my opponent is doing. I read an enormous amount of information every single day. Hundreds of pages, literally. And I can tell you right now, there's no way that the media is sharing the knowledge that they have or could have if they were willing to do the investigatory work, which is what's required, by the way, if you have any kind of journalistic integrity. But you see, they're not allowed to talk about what's really happening. There was a 2011 Swiss study that was published, and there's a link to it in this story. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, the first thing you need to do is get to the story on the New American. I don't care whether you go straight to the New American, you get it off of our Facebook page, or you get it off of americasvoicenow.org. One way or the other, you get to the story, because the links in here will give you enough information where you can have multiple stories that will correlate and support what these claims are. At the end of an hour or two, assuming you're a fairly competent reader, you're going to understand the depth of the depravity to which this goes. This Swiss study broke the story of a network of global corporate control. That a small group of entities, mostly financial institutions, and controlled for the most part by central banks, not only our own central bank, which is the Federal Reserve, but central banks in foreign nations as well, that they exert a massive amount of influence over the international economy. All of it behind the curtain of the Great Oz. This is her quote. What is really going on is that the world's resources are being dominated by this group. She adds that the corrupt power grabbers have managed to dominate the media as well. Quote, they're being allowed to do it. Who would allow such a thing? Well, there's only one entity left, folks. The government, the FCC, Congress, the people who control the media. They control it. Congress authorizes it, blesses it. Why? Because no one who challenges the Federal Reserve either has a career or lives very long. No one. They have and wield enormous power. Enormous enough to shake the foundations and the halls of global government, domestic nations, and nation states themselves. I want to delve into this story today. I'll be happy to take some of your calls about it, but I want you to make sure that you are spending your time today investigating and educating yourself about what is happening and how this is being done. Because the more folks know, the more we, as the folks, can educate those around us. This is going to be critical as we move forward into a global terroristic approach from our own governments, both here domestically and internationally. This isn't relegated or limited just to the U.S. This is a global problem, and we better get a handle on it. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now.
Coast to Coast AM brings the Ozarks a whole new feel for radio. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point. Where else would you get callers talking about everything from UFOs to war trends, from mental energy to anomalies, and from lost knowledge to aliens? Listen to experts and researchers who are part of the guest list every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk. Don't miss Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
Having difficulty with your computer? Do you think it has a mind of its own? Well, don't be alarmed. This happens to everyone at some point in time. Worry no more. Computer Dave and Kyle can help you out with PC Geeks, a weekly show right here on 107.1 The Point. Tune in Thursdays at 1 o'clock to ask computer-related questions and listen to the web topic of the week. That's PC Geeks here on 107.1 The Point.
So what's the authority or the veracity of this whistleblower group? I mean, when people come out and spill the beans, a couple of things, first of all, that we need to understand about this. Anytime whistleblowers come out, we as the public need to cheer them on. And we need to do it as publicly and as loudly and as boisterously as possible. And I'll tell you why. They're taking their lives in their hands. Not only are they doing that, but they're putting their careers on the line, and they're taking an enormous chance and risk. And if they don't feel as if anyone gives a darn at the end of the day, they will be lax and unwilling to do it. Do you understand how many people are involved in things like government conspiracy? The conspiracy in the IRS issue, checking on these Tea Party groups and what have you. Benghazi, the Federal Reserve, the Department of Justice, Fast and Furious. Pick your thing. I mean, the Clintons and their Whitewater and all the other scandals that they were involved in. How many people really truly know what happened? Plenty of them. So the real question becomes, how do we encourage those people to come out and tell us what they know? Well, for starters, they have to have some level of assurance that after it's all said and done, that one, we appreciate it, two, that it has some action and provides some level of change. Otherwise, they won't do it because they're frightened, and they should be. Mark my words, and make no mistake about it. Many, many, many people who are whistleblowers on these types of things, this stuff does play off like Hollywood. People do die with a handshake or a tap on the shoulder. Or they're suddenly in a bad part of town and get shot by muggers. I mean, come on. Why is it people don't blow the whistle? Because they fear for their lives and the lives of their families. Now, when you're talking about a banking organization and a cartel like this, these guys make the Medellin drug cartels look like kindergartners, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts. They have money, power, influence, and the ability to cover it all up. Unlike a Medellin cartel, who can buy off, a corrupt judge or two, or maybe a police department or something like that. But when these guys play, they don't just go to a police department and say, this is how it went down, and here's $50,000 to make sure you seal the deal. They go to him and say, this is how it went down. There's no money in this for you. But if word gets out that anything else occurred, your entire family, everyone in their family, including the family dogs, will be slaughtered. So why is it that some people are willing to come out and take that risk? Well, because they have a conscience, because they have integrity, because they have honor. And ladies and gentlemen, that is something that we in this nation, and frankly all around the world, are desperately, desperately in need of. Everyone, have you seen it? Have you felt it? The lack of honor and integrity that appears to just pervade our society. Nobody seems to have any honor. There's no integrity. There's no honesty. Everybody is, what's in it for me? What do I got to do to get over on you? What can I get from you? It's corporations. It's individuals. It's governments, it's organizations. Everybody is out to get what they can get before the roof caves in. That's the simple truth. Don't tell me you don't feel it. Don't tell me you haven't noticed it over the course of the past 10 or 15 or 20 years. The degradation in everything that's gone down in our society is clearly directly related to the fact that there is no more integrity, honor, and honesty left in individuals, organizations, corporations, governments. It's gone. America has collapsed under the shadow of gimme, 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 and I need it now. And it's all for me, and hell with you. You can feel it on the wind. It pervades every relationship that you have, from your phone company to the guy you do business with, to the people that you work with in your business, to the guy you sell your goods to from your farm, to the government and this. I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention to these IRS hearings. I mean, I've never seen so many people who are so authoritarian about everything in their lives until they get in front of a Senate hearing. Then they can't tell you what they used to wipe their butt that morning. Utterly amazing. Astounding to me. How a group of the world's best and brightest, as they'd classify themselves, suddenly descend into these Neanderthalic morons who can't remember what they had for breakfast. But they can recite the batting average of some guy who lived 30 years ago. Unbelievable. My point is this. We live in a very, very dangerous period in time in our history. And we need to make sure that when people come out like this, we support them, we encourage them. We need more people like this to come out on Benghazi. We need people inside the IRS who said, you know what? I know what I did was wrong. I did it anyway because that's what I was told to do, and I'm going to name names. That's what we need. I don't have the names to give you, or I tell you. I wish I did. I'd expand my risk, no problem. No problem at all. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, good morning, Mike. This is Kevin down here. Boy, you hit my hot button this morning. I've been studying this crap for 20 years, and I can tell you, if people in this country really understood the Mandrake mechanism, how the Federal Reserve prints money literally out of thin air and loans it to our government in trade for tangible assets, there'd be a riot. They would be writing their congressmen and demanding...
They wouldn't be writing their congressmen. They'd be storming the castle with torches and pitchforks, saying, send out the monster.
It is incredible. This is the biggest fraud ever perpetrated on the American public
It's not. It's ever perpetrated on the world.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
the global Ponzi scheme that makes Bernie Madoff look like a grasshopper.
Here's what I do, minimum twice a year, and I would encourage your listeners to do this. Write your congressman, write your senators, and simply ask them 2 questions. A, I would like to know from you who owns the Federal Reserve, and secondly, I would like you to explain to me why we continue to do business with them. Question number 1, they can't answer. You and I know because we know who attended the meeting at Jekyll Island in 1910.
Yeah.
But they can't answer. And if I'm not sure they understand. Some of them do, some don't. But this is the biggest fraud that has ever been pulled on people. 200 years ago, Amschel Rothschild said, give me the right to control a nation's currency, and I care not who gets elected.
Right.
It doesn't matter who gets elected. The money runs the show behind the scenes, and if you are sitting on tons of dollars and not have it in something that's earning something higher than inflation, you're an idiot.
Listen, the simple truth is this. The Federal Reserve is operated as a shadow government in absolute secrecy for so long that we don't, even those in Congress who are in the know actually don't even want to know because they don't want that knowledge. It places them in a precarious position where they may be standing in the crosshairs one
Absolutely.
afternoon.
Look up Proverbs 22:7. The borrower is servant to the lender.
End of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that's us,
Right. And when we talk about printing money, they don't actually even print it anymore. They
No.
just add zeros to a balance sheet in a computer.
Right.
And because it's all electronic.
And fractional reserve banking compounds the problem.
Yeah, well, I've talked about fractional reserve before. People don't even get it.
No.
I don't know how you don't, but it's just basic math. If I take in 1,000 and I can lend out 10,000 based on that.
Have you ever heard the little story about the guy that rides into town with the $100 bill to get a hotel room, but he wants to put the $100 deposit down, but he wants to see the room, so he leaves the $100 bill on the desk, and while he goes up to look at the room, the hotel owner runs next door, pays his bar tab, the bar tab guy runs and pays his hooker bill, and then the hooker runs across the street, pays her grocery bill, and the grocery guy comes across and pays his hotel bill, and the guy comes back downstairs and says, I think I'll move on to the next town, and he picks up his $100 bill and he leaves, and everybody's paid.
There you go. Think about that story for a moment, folks.
I'm serious.
And I want you to go over it in your head a few times and understand exactly the implication of what Kevin just told you. Because it is the way that this operates. It is there is nothing actually accomplished, and yet all of this money changes hands.
Get a copy of the creature from Jekyll Island.
Yeah, I've had Griffin on
yes, I know.
Interviewed a minute.
It's a complex read, but really slow down when you get to the Mandrake mechanism and understand how tangible assets are being seized for nothing.
Yeah, it's frightening, and you won't find anything more eye-opening. If there is one thing, I always tell people, whatever it is that floats your boat, some people like to talk about the education system, and that's an area of personal interest for them. Then become a subject matter expert. If what you like is something related to gun rights or Second Amendment or the Fourth Amendment or the 10th Amendment, fine, whatever it is that floats your boat, become a subject matter expert on it so that you can expound and educate those around you using that knowledge. In this case, there are people that just love the idea of banking and understand and like to understand how mass power is manipulated. This is the topic for you. And if you are a researcher or even remotely interested, you don't even have to be a researcher. Just read some of these stories that are out here today, and at the end of about an hour's worth of reading, you're going to be mind blown.
Oh, this stuff reads like fiction, but it's not.
That's the problem.
You get done with it, and you're going, this can't possibly.
Right.
When James was in high school, his economics teacher asked me to come explain this, and what I did, briefly, I gave each student, 3 students, 10 pens each, battery station pens. I said, this is our currency. I'm loaning you these at 10% simple interest. The law says you can't counterfeit these pens. At the end of 1 year, I collected my pens, but none of them could pay because they owed 11 pens.
Yeah, right.
So I whatever the assets were, I owned them for pens.
Right. There you go. Thank you very much, Kev. I appreciate it. We got to take a break. Folks, we'll be back in just a few minutes. We're going to take a quick break right now for our sponsors. Make sure that you visit and patronize these folks. They're the ones who keep us on the air. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now. We're going to rip this Federal Reserve thing apart this morning, and I want to make sure that you're part of it.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. President Obama gives a speech today about fighting terrorism. It's 2 p.m. at National Defense University in Washington.
The president's expected to lay out why his administration's used deadly attacks from unmanned drone aircraft to go after terror suspects overseas. Part of that openness may be the government formally acknowledging yesterday that 4 Americans have been killed using drones, including top target Anwar al-Awlaki. President Obama is also expected to renew his call to close the Guantanamo Bay prison camp.
Fox News Radio's Rich Johnson in D.C. Unemployment claims are down.
340,000 people filed for first-time benefits last week. That was fewer than the expected 345,000. Continuing claims fell to 2.9 million, the lowest since March of 2008.
Fox Business Network's Diane Macedo. NBA playoffs. The Heat beat the Pacers 103-102 in overtime. Fox News. We report. You decide.
I'd like to thank our sponsor, Wits End Classic Barbershop, who is the sponsor of our telephone lines this morning. They're located on the square in West Plains. It's Wits End Classic Barbershop. Thanks to our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun. You can find them on the web at westplainspawn.com. They can be reached at 417-256-3000, and they're located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. 400 guns undercover. Pizza Hut, our friends down there on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch menu with salad, pizza, and pasta. Excellent opportunity for you to have a great lunch and eat well and something tasty. Our friends over at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue. You can find them on the web at batterystation.com. Telephone 417-257-7799. Our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance can be found on the web at ozarkntnselfreliance.com. My friend Brian there can be reached at 870-492-4030. They're located a half mile east of Walmart at 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's right off the square in West Plains at 2 Evans Arcade, and you can reach her at 255-2253. And my friend Bill Stone over at Stone Construction. If you're considering doing remodeling, custom or new construction, or anything light commercial, give Bill a call and have him bid on your project at 293-0116.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington and West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com.
Weather sponsorships are now available on News Talk 107.1 The Point. Get more information, email info@diamondmediaradio.com for complete details.
From the Point Weather Center for this one, we'll have a mainly clear sky, mostly sunny through the day, the high 76, partly cloudy tonight, low 48. Tomorrow's going to be a mostly sunny day with a high temperature of 74, mainly clear tomorrow night, low 52, maybe a thunderstorm Saturday. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Mission Control, this is Stan Sputnik.
Dan, this 2013 FCC report on Internet service says Exceed is #1 for delivering advertised speeds.
Well, sir, Exceed and it is 4 times faster than average DSL. Did you know DSL stands for disturbingly slow load times?
Keep it professional, Stan.
Right, sir. Can I come home now?
Stan, we need you up there to maintain these super fast 12 meg speeds. Now, let's check in with our local Earth-based Exceed dealer.
Faith Enterprises, 1001 West Broadway in West Plains, or call 417-257-1803.
All right. So the issue here, folks, is that I want you to be fully educated about what's going on around you. And I get it. This is you could spend a lifetime studying this. But what you need to know is that every journey starts with the first step, even if it's a journey of 10,000 miles. And the best way that you can get yourself educated is by reading. I can't stress that enough. If you're not a great reader, practice at it. I promise you'll get better with it. But it's really important that you understand who and what. I'm gonna take these 2 calls, and then I'm gonna hold calls for the remainder of the morning, because I really got a ton of information to go through here, and I want to make sure that you're getting the full implication of everything that this issue has to offer. Go ahead, caller.
Hello.
You're on, caller.
Yes, sir. This is John out in Caulfield. I thought I'd give you a quick bit of information. If somebody really wants to understand this and get a handle on it in a quick and easy way, there's an essay called The World Plus 5%. And you can just Google around and find it on the web in 1,000 different places. And it fully explains how this whole system works. And it makes it real to you. So it's an easy way to do that. And it costs you nothing.
The World Plus 5%?
Yes, sir. It's available 1,000 places. And it takes you about 35, 40 minutes to read it.
Okay. I'll make sure I put it up on Facebook and our website as well.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Go ahead, caller.
Michael, make this quick. Here's a joke. Do you think the Federal Reserve will ever be audited by the Congress they own?
No.
And another quick thing, Kennedy. He went around the Federal Reserve and went to the Treasury Department and had these United States notes, I believe it was, printed with silver back. Do you think that could have had anything to do with his demise? I'm going to get off of here.
Got it. A lot of people say that, don't know whether it's true, don't even, right after he came out with silver certificates, which were redeemable for silver, which of course violates everything that the Fed stands for, he was taken out. So questions I can't answer. That's for, historians and researchers. That the truth is, we got so many problems right now in our nation and in our world that trying to go back and, embroiling myself in that kind of history, while educational, doesn't solve our immediate problem. And so, and I encourage all of you, I'm glad you brought that point out, because it's important for us to note something. There are a lot of people out there who can tell you all this stuff about the Kennedy assassination. And I'm just going to pick on that because that's one of the things the caller brought out. But let's understand something. We're in a position where we are, the circumstances are exigent. That means emergency. And we have to commit to a triage level that allows us to deal with that which is most immediate in our lives. In other words, the patient is bleeding out. We've got to tie a tourniquet around the severed limbs to keep the patient from bleeding out and dying. If you want to take this analogy a step further, the patient is the United States of America. Now, there's all of these wounds everywhere, but we have to make a decision about which wounds are the most critical. Is it the severed limb? Is it the giant sucking chest wound? Or is it the numerous cuts and scrapes and other things? Well, medical theory would tell you that you got to stop the bleeding first, because even though he may have a giant sucking chest wound, cover that up and allow seal the wound, but get a tourniquet around that leg, because if you don't get a tourniquet around that leg, he's going to bleed out and it isn't going to much matter. That's the simple truth. I hate to draw that kind of a graphic mental picture for you, but that's where we are. And, going through the mental exercises of trying to look at past, conspiracy theories about Kennedy and all of that, there's so much that's real right now. We don't have the time or the luxury of going and looking at past history for things like that. Those of you guys who are out there who know the sports scores for every year that the Red Sox or the Yankees had a ball game, let me tell you something. You're wasting that brilliant resource between your ears that God and nature have given you. That, I mean, it serves no functional purpose. Professional sports, I'm going to tell you something. This is my theory, so, you can write it off if you want. But professional sports is meant to be an outlet for male testosterone so that they don't revolt and riot and take this country back. That's the truth. Think about it. How do you get literally millions of men who are, for all intents and purposes, all alpha males, to not focus their anger, their frustration, and their testosterone against the government, which is oppressing them? Look at Europe. They riot and kill each other over soccer games, but they let their government just beat them and whip them into butter. What does that tell you, folks? I'm not I'm not trying to throw rocks at anybody. I'm just saying, what's your priority? Is your priority really a football team? Does it really matter who the Chiefs are playing? Really? I mean, does it, is all of this information that you surround yourself with, and all the time you spend, picking the basketball team and fantasy football and all that crap, you know what? That's the adult version of video games. You complain about your kids, but doing the self-same thing. It's just that the game is different. It's a waste. I'm not saying you got to live, breathe, and eat politics. You know why? This ain't politics. This is patriotism. This is restoration. This is a war, and you're a soldier, darn it. And if you haven't determined yet that your job function is to stand there with the loaded educational rifle and fire bullets at the enemy, I don't know what boot camp you were in. Every one of us should be doing everything in our power to make this all of our sole and exclusive focus. And I don't put your religion aside. I know I'm going to get 1 million letters from pastors. I don't care. I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, when this nation collapses into tyranny, your religion will be taken from you. You will not be allowed to practice it. You will not be allowed to meet over it. You will not be allowed to fellowship. You will not be allowed to own a Bible. You will not be allowed to preach it. So your first and foremost priority ought to be to protect it. And to do that, you better be a soldier. Say it ain't so, you're fooling yourself. Look what the media is going through right now. All of them throwing Fox News under the bus for years. Don't get me wrong, Fox News is no paragon of virtue. They're just as owned by the media as by these globalists as everybody else. But and honestly, I believe they're really put out there to give an opposing viewpoint, just so that there's some semblance that it's not all one-sided. I get it. They're a shill. They cover just enough so that you can see that there's really an iceberg down there, but not really a whole lot. They're not doing any core drilling, let's put it that way. But the simple truth is, now the media is starting to recognize that they were silent when they came for Fox, and now they're the next targets on the list. You can be silent when they come for somebody else, because it's not you. But it won't be long before they come for you. And if you think professional sports or anything else that you're involved in is important, I'm here to tell you, in light of liberty, it pales in comparison. Nothing else matters. Nothing else. Because when this liberty is taken from you, all of those things go away with it. Your love of cars, your hobby about building models, your religion, the book you think you're writing, it's all gone. All gone. So, you can continue to play around with your little factoids, or you can get with the program and recognize that unless you are an active, functioning participant, a soldier on the front line shooting the bullets of education and information at the enemy and into anyone around you who will absorb them, you're a loser.
Most of us will agree that a toothbrush and toothpaste are very low-cost items when compared to major dental repair work. We just know that it's much less painful to maintain with good dental hygiene and checkups than let things go and see what happens. The same is true with vehicle maintenance. Following recommended fluid maintenance schedules and replacing filters before a problem develops is much more cost-efficient than dealing with a transmission or engine breakdown. Stop by or call Don's Auto Service to schedule the services recommended for your vehicle, 1618 Porter Wagner Boulevard, or 417-256-2752. If you're looking for great deals on iPads or Kindles, look no further than your neighborhood Radio Shack authorized sales center. They've got great deals on the latest iPads and Kindles. Maybe you need a new GPS or an MP3 player to get your music library ready for those barbecues. Whatever your electronic needs, stop by your local neighborhood Radio Shack authorized dealer in West Plains at 1408 Southern Hills Shopping Center or call 417-256-1819. SAH Printing at 204 Porter Wagner Boulevard is the best place to get your custom screen-printed t-shirts, sweatshirts, and hats for the spring and summer sports seasons. Whether it's baseball, softball, or soccer, whether you're a Zizzer, Hornet, Panther, or Rocket, let SAH Printing make sure your t-shirt game is up to par. Just stop by 204 Porter Wagner Boulevard in West Plains or call 417-257-1642.
Kim Commando, aka the Digital Goddess, keeps you plugged in with a daily feature, Kim Commando's Digital Minute. This segment keeps you informed with what's going on in the technology world, along with new tips and tricks to use at home to improve those computer skills. Catch Commando at 7:22 a.m. during Cooper & Company on the Ozark's Best News Talk. If the feature has you craving more, join Kim, the Digital Goddess, Saturdays from noon to 3 on the Ozark's Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
All right. I've been getting a lot of questions about from folks about these ammo cans because they're in short supply. I just want to mention Kevin over at the battery station. He just got a ton of these new ammo cans in, and they are brand new or in like mint condition. And there's a bunch of these really big ones, these gigantors, and these are sealable for water and air and so forth and so on. And ammo cans right now are in short supply, like everything else that has the word ammo even relatively correlated to it. So make sure that you get down and see him. You can also call him at 257-7799. That's 257-7799. He's got a boatload of these new ammo cans in, a lot of these the big 50 caliber cans, and a lot of these even larger. These are cans that are almost the size of a cooler, some of them. So you've got to make sure that you contact him about that if that's something that you're looking for towards your self-reliance storage needs. By the way, when you get a hold of him, if you or anyone in your family is on antidepressants, which is one of the tools they use to keep you dumbed down so you're not educated and you're not interested and you're apathetic, I want you to ask him about, just say to him, Mike asked me to ask you about antidepressant purge. He's got a product down there that will help rid your body and flush your system of these antidepressants faster than anything else. And if you're on any of these antidepressants, look, I'm no medical professional, and I'm not going to tell you to go against the advice of your doctor. I'm going to say to you that if you're on a bunch of antidepressants and you are not aware of what they're doing to you, that's one of the goals of the antidepressant, is to not make you give a damn. And, you can wean yourself off of these. You can cut your dosages down slowly but surely. You really, especially if you're on a high dosage, you should never just do a cold turkey thing. That's not good. That's how all of these psychotics, and look, you want proof? Every one of these people who went out there and committed one of these mass murder crimes, they're all on antidepressants. Every one of them, without fail, for the last 20 years. And so, recognize what they're doing to you. They're bending the way that your mind operates and works. And give Kevin a call at 257-7799. Talk about the ammo cans, but ask him about the antidepressant flush, or whatever you want to call it. It helps your body get rid of it, and it helps get it out of your system as quickly as possible. And I'm going to tell you something. After you've been off of these things for 60 or 90 days and your body is cleansed of that, your mind will begin to go back to the right wiring that it was originally given to you by God and nature. Stop with all this nonsense about, well, the whole, the Chicken Little, the world is falling, the sky is falling, I'm so depressed. You know what? You should be depressed. You should be depressed enough to become angry, educated, informed, and then fight. That's the whole goal of antidepressants, is to kill your fight or flight instinct. So you stand there like an idiot while they just rob you blind. You're standing there and the guy's got his hand in your pocket and you're not even saying anything to him. You're standing there and he's putting handcuffs on your wrists and you're not even objecting. That's the whole idea of antidepressants, people. You should be depressed. Now, if you got a true, if you're manic depressive and you're looking to jump off a bridge or something, I don't want to get into the issues of it. I'm just going to tell you this. The 20 to 25% of America is now on antidepressants. Your children alone, under the age of 18 now. 25% of children are on antidepressants. These psychobabbling idiots are telling us that 20% of all children have a mental illness. That is such a pile of crap. It's higher than Mount Everest. If you believe that, you are the most gullible, institutionalized knucklehead I have ever possibly met. 25% of American kids have a mental disease? Please. Their only mental disease is that they're children. And this society doesn't want children. They want automatons, little robots that do exactly what they're told. And they're pumping your children and your family and your wife and your husband with antidepressants to make you so. Get off of them. I mean that. Ask Kevin about it. 257-7799. Get down and get some of those ammo cans, by the way. He's also got that Life Straw. I want you to get a hold of that Life Straw because that is the absolute best thing that you can have. He's got these things down there. They're $20. I see them advertised on the web all the time for $29. Go buy them. They're $20. You can stick it you can plunge it into a puddle and drink. And if you strain the water with a coffee filter first, you can get 1,000 gallons out of these things. You can't drink 1,000 gallons in your lifetime. Forget running through the woods or going out on a hunting trip. Anyway, look, what I want you to, and you know what? Tomorrow is, Doreen will join us. But I'm almost inclined to just cover this topic for a second day because I'm going to tell you something. What you don't, the heart of the story is this. There are 147 financial institutions and central banks, headlined by the Federal Reserve. And they are a cartel of private banks. This is a study about the international financial system that's been secretly gamed, mostly by central banks. They're the ones we're talking about, says Ms. Hudis. The central bankers have been gaming the system. I would say that this is a massive power grab. They manipulate gold prices. They have been working to manipulate global currencies. This is what she says. The group that we're talking about from the Zurich study, that's your Federal Reserve. It has some other pieces to it, but that's the Federal Reserve. They have secretly dominated world economy, the world economy, using secret interlocking corporate directorates and terrorizing anyone who managed to figure out that they were having any kind of a role and putting people in very important positions so that they could get a free pass. Did you hear what I just said? This is right out of the mouth of a whistleblower, and that's a true whistleblower. Not one of these people who comes out and wants to, creep around and skulk around. This is a club of private central bankers. Now, are people going to want interest in their country's debts to continue to be paid by that group when they find out that the secret tricks that the group has been doing? Don't forget how they've enriched themselves extraordinarily and how they've taken taxpayer money for the bailouts. Guys, you have to realize something. Here's a quote from this thing is so full of quotes. I want to read you the whole thing because it's that good. This is like crooks trying to figure out where they can go hide. It's the mafia, says Hudis. These culprits that have grabbed all this economic power have succeeded in infiltrating both sides of the issue. So you will find people who are supposedly trying to fight corruption who are just there to spread disinformation and as a placeholder to trip up anybody who manages to get their act together. Those thugs think that if they can keep the world ignorant, they can bleed it even longer. That, my friends, is a powerful, powerful statement. I mean, I'm telling you, if you don't read this story today, you have failed in your mission. The powers of financial capitalism had a far-reaching aim. Nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. This is Professor Quigley. The system was to be controlled in a feudalist fashion by the central banks of the world, acting in concert by secret agreements arrived at in frequent private meetings and conferences. The apex of the system was to be the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, a private bank owned and controlled by the world's central banks, which were themselves private corporations. But it's not going to happen, says Miss Hudis. Holy smoke. God bless this woman for having the courage to stand up in the face of what I guarantee you is incredible fear, intimidation, and threat and coercion and threats. At least not if she has something to do with it. God. While the media are dominated by the power-grabbing network, Hudis has been working with foreign governments, reporters, U.S. officials, state governments, and a broad coalition of fellow whistleblowers to blow the entire scam wide open. There has been quite a bit of interest, too, particularly among foreign governments and state officials in the United States. State officials. State officials. Not federal. State. You know why? Because states aren't part of the federal banking system. They, under the Constitution, are required to use gold and silver as their currency, not paper money. And, by the way, they're the ones who are paying in to the banks, to the federal government through taxation, right? I mean, the federal government only gets its money from taxing individuals and from states. So if they're squandering that money and using it to pay trillions of dollars into bankers' hands, who's actually ultimately paying that? The states are, because that's siphoning money away from the states that they could use to fund this massive, bloated, Jabba the Hutt federal government. I'm telling you, I can't say strongly enough that I want you to read this article today. And I want you to click on the links that are in it and then read those articles. I get it. Print them all out. It may take you a while. You will not find a better, more eye-opening alert than you're going to find right here today. You're listening to America's Voice. My name is Michael Evans. I'd like you to find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. I'll post this article up there. If you don't have a computer, get to a library, go to a friend's, go to a neighbor's, go to your mother's, and print it. You can find us on americasvoicenow.org. You can find us at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. We'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early. Remember, The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is when good men do nothing.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. This man.
We must fight them as they fight us.